Hey, thanks for joining me on Pagosa Adventures. Well, today we are going to be doing a battle royale. That is going to be the Leisure Travel Vans Wonder versus the Leisure Travel Vans Unity. Now then, in the past, if you wanted luxury and prestige, obviously the Unity was the way to go. It was on the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter chassis. It had all kinds of features that the Wonder couldn't even think of adding, but it is different today. So we are going to pit the differences between the Wonder and the Unity, the Ford Transit versus the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, and see exactly who comes out on top, and is it even something that you would want to consider spending more money for a Unity anymore. 2 years ago, I would have said absolutely, but today, not so much. So let's take a deep dive into looking at the differences and seeing who comes out on top. Because now, I would say Ford has really done a really good job of competing with the Sprinter, even doing some things even much better. So let's jump into the specs, let's jump into the features, and let's see who comes out on top and helping you make your decision, Wonder or Unity. Let's find out. All right, let's look at the tail of the tape. Now then, a few years ago, I believe it was 2021, the Ford Transit really upped its game. It really delivered a haymaker to the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, adding in a ton of the features that I would have said you've got to choose a Unity because of all of the features that the Sprinter has. Well, Ford answered the call, and here we are. So let's jump over and look at the specs and see exactly who's coming out on top when it comes to the powertrain, because I think that's going to be the biggest thing that Ford has over the Mercedes. Okay, so when we jump in here and we see that the Sprinter now has only 30 pounds more GVWR than the Ford Transit. Before, it was quite considerably a bit more. Now then, I'm going to tell you what's going to be the biggest thing, and that is the Sprinter is a diesel and the Transit is now a 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6 gas engine. That is a fantastic difference right there. And I can say, I just took a 3,000 mile round trip to the Florida Keys from Dallas, Texas in my Unity, my Sprinter, my diesel Sprinter. And I was seeing everything from $5 up to $5.60 a gallon for diesel. Add on to that DEF situation, which if you don't know what that is, that's diesel exhaust fluid. It's a separate fluid that you have to put into your diesel engine that really lowers the emissions coming out. It's one of those EPA type things, but it is, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but you do have to add it probably every 5,000 miles or so. And, you know, you can get it at truck stops or it comes in a box you get at Walmart. Either way, it's a pain and something else that you have to consider. It's not terribly expensive per mile, but it is an expense. Now then, when we look over at the gas, gas here in Dallas is, you know, it's basically under $3 a gallon now. So that is basically $2 to $2.60. That is difference. So a 24-gallon tank, if you're talking about a $2 difference, that's a $50 per fill-up difference. I can remember when it cost $50 to fill up my Leisure Travel Van. Now it's a $50 difference to fill it up with diesel versus what you could do in the Wonder, which is gas. So that is a huge, huge advantage. Now then, horsepower and torque. Well, that EcoBoost V6 has more power and more torque than the Sprinter. 188 compared to the 310 and 325 pounds-foot of torque compared to 400 pounds of torque for the Transit. Now then, you can tell right now that, you know, more horsepower, more torque, what's that going to give you? That's going to give you a little bit more acceleration. Is it going to tow better? I don't know. Haven't towed with either one. However, the Transit will be able to not tow quite as much as the Unity, even though you don't want to go over in the Unity. I say it all the time, don't go over 4,200 pounds towing, even though all the videos and everything says the Sprinter can pull 5,000 pounds. It's not necessarily true when you add in gross combined vehicle weight ratings, all that, and that's for a different topic. But 4,200 pounds is probably max for the Unity. Probably 4,000 is max for the Transit. All right, transmission. Now then, I have a Ford F-350 Super Duty with a 10-speed transmission. And I'm going to tell you that thing drives like a dream, and it is fantastic on fuel mileage. When I'm not pulling my Airstream, I get about 23 miles to the gallon in a 9,000-pound truck. So the more speeds you've got, the better the fuel mileage, right? And so real life, I will tell you this, with the 7 speed that the Mercedes has, I averaged about 17 miles to the gallon on that round trip to Florida, and that trip was pretty good. It's pretty flat, obviously, from Dallas to Florida. When I'm up in the mountains, I average about 14 miles to the gallon. So what's the Transit going to get? Well, I don't know. I've never driven a Transit, never done the math on that, but I'm assuming it's going to be about the same as long as you aren't terrible on the old pedal, right? And so having a 10-speed transmission, that's going to be so much better than just a 7-speed transmission. All right, now, all-wheel drive. You have the option in the Transit, and you do not in the Mercedes. Now then, why would you want all-wheel drive in a low-to-the-ground motorhome? Personally, I don't know. I would not get that. It's like a $6,500 option. To me, it makes no sense. Maybe if you're up north where, I don't know, because they're not a Four Seasons RV either, so you're not going to be camping in the winter necessarily. Some people do have to, winterize and then use antifreeze in your toilet. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me, right? So go south if that's the case. So all-wheel drive doesn't make sense to me, especially at $6,500 premium. Doesn't make sense to me, but I like the ability that people who want it can get it. All right, so that is a clear win for the Transit and the Wonder as far as powertrain goes. A lot more power and a lot less fuel costs. So that's a win-win right there. All right, let's jump over to the cab, the Sprinter or the Transit. Now then, again, a few years ago, I would have said the Sprinter wins hands down. But now Ford has added some things in that is going to compete with the Mercedes. They now have that big 12-inch screen with Sync 4. It's the same screen and system that I have in my Ford F-350, which I absolutely love. Supports wireless CarPlay. The Mercedes does not support wireless CarPlay, which you think, that's not a big deal. It actually is a big deal to me. I hate having where you plug in your phone in order to get CarPlay in the Mercedes. It's on top of the dash. It's you have that white cord coming down. So I'm a little OCD. Yeah, that bothers me. Wireless CarPlay is a huge win. Now then, Ford also started putting in things like forward collision warnings, adaptive cruise control, side crosswind features. Now then, I don't really like that crosswind feature. It freaks me out every time the Mercedes, it does that on the Mercedes Sprinter. Kind of just slams on the brakes. It's really jarring, even though you know it's probably coming. But now Ford even has that. And so they have really, really matched Mercedes when it comes to safety and comfort features. Again, they do win hands down when it comes to that screen and wireless CarPlay. But the overall look and feel of the Sprinter is absolutely beautiful. Said it 100 times. It looks like an S-Class Mercedes. It's gorgeous. And the controls on the steering wheel are absolutely so much better than Ford's. I like it so much better than driving my Ford F-350 with the adaptive cruise control, because I basically drive with my thumbs when I'm driving now, because I just it can control the speed, all kinds of things with my thumb on the steering wheel. And the way Mercedes does it is brilliant. I absolutely love it. So who wins this round? I'm going to give it to the Sprinter. It's bigger. You've got more room in between the two seats. We even put a portable refrigerator or even an ice chest in between those two seats. And I don't think you can with the Transit because the seats are a little bit closer to the road. The Wonder is lower to the ground as well. I do like in the Unity. I am sitting up high, a little bit more command of the road. So I'm going to give this round to the Sprinter. All right, let's talk about the house portion of the Wonder versus the Unity. And at this point, I think it's pretty moot. And I'm going to say that overall, since Leisure Travel Vans is starting to introduce ducted air into the Wonder, which they just have with the MBL, because that was always the biggest thing for me. Why I would always say I would want a Unity over a Wonder as far as the house portion is concerned. That's because if you don't understand the ducted air portion of it, well, ducted air basically is your air conditioner being ducted all the way through the Unity. Okay, so that's going to make your front of your coach a lot cooler, a lot faster, right? Whereas the Wonder has non-ducted air, and the air conditioner sits in the rear of the coach where all of that air just dumps out right there, obviously cooling that area very quickly, but it's going to take some time to cool the front of that coach. So I've always said that I would always have a Unity because of the ducted air. Well, in the MBL Wonder, guess what? Leisure Travel Vans is doing ducted air. And so pretty much I would say for the money savings, I would say the Wonder, as far as the house goes, it's the Wonder. And so for this round, totally going to give it to the Wonder because you don't get that many more features in the house of Wonder versus Unity as long as the ducted air is coming into play. But with that being said, I'll give this round to the Wonder. All right, so let's talk about features that one can have while the other can't. But Leisure Travel Vans is, again, they're upping the game on the Wonder and will be bringing these features soon, I do believe. And in one case, they already have. Okay, so what you can do in the Unity is you can have a slide. So there are a couple of floor plans that have slides. Now, some people like slides, some people don't. I love our slide. We have the FX. When I open that slide up, it is massive in there. Well, not massive, but you know what I mean. Anyway, it's a lot more room than if you didn't have a slide, obviously. And so having a slide just gives you a little bit bigger of a house portion of the RV, and I absolutely love that. Now then, on the Wonder, the new MBL, which Leisure Travel Vans is bringing some of this stuff to it. The MBL in the Wonder has a slide. Now, a lot of people think, well, the slide can break. And yes, I've seen slides break. In fact, I've been a part of trying to help another Leisure Travel Van owner push their slide in when it broke. But that's the only one I've ever seen. Ours has been fantastic. Knock on some wood there. But you hardly ever hear of them breaking, right? And so is it a risk? Yes. Is it a mild risk? I would say yes. But now you do have the option of getting a slide in a Wonder. Now, the biggest thing for me are leveling jacks. Now, why do they not put leveling jacks in the Wonder and they do the Unity? Well, it's because the Sprinter sits higher off of the ground, and you can get those equalizer leveling jacks, which in my opinion is a must-have. I absolutely love our leveling jacks. It makes life so much better. It completely stops the movement of the coach whenever you are parked and sleeping or whatever, and as well as just auto leveling. So it is a fantastic solution. Now, I've heard talks that Leisure Travel Van's going to be bringing that to the Wonder. I don't know how they're going to engineer that. Again, the whole thing is because the Transit sits much lower to the ground, therefore knocking the jacks off of your coach, which you don't want to happen, right? So who wins this round? I'm going to give it over to the Unity one more time. All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty, and that is price. So a long time ago, the Wonder was much less expensive than the Unity. Prices have absolutely skyrocketed in the last 2 years since the pandemic. What I paid for my Unity, you can't even touch a Leisure Travel Van for. If you spec it out like I would spec mine out, it's well over $200,000 for a Unity. There is a $200,000 Wonder now. That's the MBL with the options that I would want on that MBL. And so $200,000 for a Wonder. Now, there are much cheaper if you get the front twin bed, which is their cheapest model. Then obviously you have about a $35,000, $36,000 price break from that highest price MBL version. But still, it's very expensive. It's about $20,000 to $30,000 more than it was just 2 or 3 years ago, pre-pandemic. And so price really is, I would say, when you're talking 170, 180 compared to 200, then that's, I mean, yeah, it's $20,000, $30,000, but at that point, get what you want. You're spending a small fortune. So if you want the Unity, get the Unity. If you want the Transit, save a few bucks and get the Transit. Just know you're still spending a boatload of money. And so as far as price goes, I say it's a draw, because while there is a significant difference, or can be a significant difference, it's really, at this point, get what you want, right? And so the one thing, again, that I would say, $6,500 when you add in that all-wheel drive to the Wonder brings you up to the price of the Unity in many cases. So I would say, why in the world would you want all-wheel drive? Why would you need it? It's probably going to make your gas mileage go down. I can't imagine any scenario where I would take my, Wonder that is so low to the ground anyway, take where I would even think that I would need all-wheel drive. So for me, all-wheel drive is no, no, no. All right, so let's tally it up. Well, who knew? It's a draw. So basically, nowadays, I would say there's not as much of a difference between Wonder and Unity in order to make a clear distinction on, okay, the Unity is just a much bigger upgrade than the Wonder, because it is not anymore. The Unity is still quite a few dollars more, but at the price range, what's a few dollars if you want that Mercedes Sprinter, right? And at the end of the day, if that's a big deal to you, the prestige of it, yeah, that Mercedes, compared to a Ford, yeah, people are going to look at that and say, yeah, that cost way more than that Ford Wonder did, right? Which is not necessarily the case, especially if you add all-wheel drive into your Wonder, then, you're pretty much up there with the Unity. So how do you decide? Well, I can't tell you. The way that I would decide is it's going to be the gas versus the diesel. I do think it's a much wiser decision to get a gas engine versus a diesel engine. And that right there would make my decision over, yeah, I do love that Mercedes-Benz interior. It is head over heels better. Not necessarily better, but just a little more luxurious than the Ford. But that 12-inch screen and wireless CarPlay, that's nice as well. Again, at this point, I can't tell you which one to get. It's really a toss-up. Save a few bucks with the Wonder, and you save a few bucks at the gas pump as well. And so I don't think I helped you at all if you were trying to decide between, the Wonder and the Unity. At the end of the day, when we get our Murphy Bed Lounge, which I believe we will be ordering soon, I think I'm going to go Wonder. That's right. I think I'm going to go the Wonder. I think I'm going to go the Wonder MBL. And so that's quite the difference. I never thought I would get the Wonder in the past, but now, why not, right? I do think it's a better solution for Janet and I. But anyway, with that being said, if this is the first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and then the old thumbs up as well. I really do appreciate all of that. And with that being said, we'll see you next time.